I think, James, this is an area you've some experience in as well. Perhaps you could share your perspective.
Sure. So actually, I work for an organization now that really focuses on the environment. But I come from a development background, and I'm an engineer, ironically. And I think for me, the main link between climate and water, and Partha touched on these points, is increasingly two simple words. It's floods and droughts, right? We see these extremes of hydrology affecting people and affecting the natural system, and how we deal with that is becoming increasingly challenging because we're not able to cope with these increasing extremes and these different return mechanisms of these climate risks. This is also, to a certain extent, a consequence of the state of the landscape. So in many ways, when I travel around the world and see various projects, understanding the condition of the ecosystem, to me, is always a good indicator of if development is actually working. Nobody wants to live in a degraded natural system. And normally when you have degradation, that's also when these extremes, when they hit, are hit harder because people are not prepared. They don't have a level of resilience to these shocks. I think one element for me that really demonstrates this is wetlands. Most people don't really understand wetlands, but they are being lost 3 times faster than the world's forests. And yet they are critical from a climate perspective because they store water, they help to recharge groundwater in some situations. They're also a key store of carbon. And so as we degrade these systems, so we erode fundamental elements that people rely upon, fundamental services that these natural systems provide at the border basin scale, and fundamental carbon stores. They're also key areas of biodiversity. So the link between biodiversity, carbon, water, and human security is very, very clear in some of these natural system areas. And as they become degraded, consequently, we lose those services. And then we have to fill those services back up somehow. We have to pay for it through development interventions, or we have to accept that in some cases we cannot fulfill those objectives in terms of trying to provide things for people. And I think linked to this, of course, is that we know that there is migration and movement of people due to climate risks, and people are often moving due to conflict, but they're also moving to access water for their own personal needs and for livelihood options. So climate, to me, is a key driver of how the ecosystem health responds and provides for development. Just the final point is a key element to that is also groundwater. We heavily rely on groundwater. Increasingly, countries will be looking to groundwater for accessing for water services, and yet we don't govern this very well, we don't monitor it very well, we pollute it at will, and we're mining fossil groundwater in many places, water that won't be replaced certainly for the next couple of hundred of years. So we need to get much better at understanding the system integrity to be able to actually cope with climate change and deliver water security going forward. Thanks.